allegiance to.
Well, good morning, and welcome back to At the Roundtable with Mammoth. I'm your host, Larry Ellison. Dr. Bradley is on a well-deserved hiatus this week. We want to thank our sponsor, Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company. For all your mortgage needs, give branch manager Cora Holbrook a call. That area code 781-342-0252. Guaranteed Mortgage is located at 75 State Street in downtown Boston, Mass. Guarantee Rate Mortgage Company, guaranteed to exceed your expectations. As a matter of fact, folks, do you want better this morning? If you want to give Cora Holbrook a call, she's going to be joining us in a moment. Her and Sammy for all your mortgage needs and any updates on the mortgage area there. So you can give us a call at 617-282-0685 this morning if you want to speak to Cora. 617-282-0685. We have a call on the line. My brother from another, Larry Brown, is on the line. Good morning, sir.
Good morning, brother. How you doing?
I'm well. How are you and the family?
I'm pretty good.
Oh.
Okay for an old guy.
Oh.
Wife and all that stuff.
Oh, God, you're beating the system, Larry.
Yeah, so far.
Yeah.
Yeah, so my ears are burning, so I decided to give you a call.
Oh, okay. I hope we can fan the flames and get them burned out. What can we do for you this morning? Well, I said I was, just saying earlier how, folks like yourself, set the table for people like me coming up, and that I didn't fully understand at the time what you were putting into my head and others, and about the importance of Mamleo and the work that you guys were doing, and folks had understanding. And I think because you had that prior institutional information and working and seeing all this up front, that why I understood better, having sat in that seat, why folks like yourself did the work you did, and how necessary it is, even more so now, even than back then. I think because back then it was right in your face and you knew it, you could identify it, you could smell it, you could see it, and now people try to be a little bit more covert with it.
Yeah, that's true, because my class came on the 2 years after busing in, so I know how that.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of our brothers and sisters on the job had a big resentment that we were coming on with such a big number.
Mm-hmm.
That.
Mm-hmm.
Main thing was I had good mentors like John Wells, Billy Celeste,
Yeah.
and my father from another dimension, Willis Kahn.
Mm-hmm.
So
Yeah.
I know it's better than it used to be, because as time goes on, things improve.
Mm-hmm.
But I can see us sliding back to the same old mentality.
Well, not just sliding back, but you're right. We've regressed to a point where I'm not sure how we come out of this, because a lot of the things that you guys have been proactive in, and I've tried to do as my time as president, and I'm seeing the results of the lawsuits that we filed on behalf of the members. But if you don't have that ahead of time, it's because I see how long it takes. For instance, on average, the drug hair test took over 15 years. Some of these other lawsuits have been over 10 years, and I know a lot of the suits that you guys filed and folks before you all, it took a long time for those to become implemented into the system to where it actually had an impact. So because we've had such a gap span during that time frame, that we're now seeing it coming through, but we've paid a price for it.
Yeah, exactly.
Mm-hmm.
Also, and you mentioned earlier in the broadcast,
Mm-hmm.
with the consent decree, we had a pretty good response from the Supreme Court. Matter of fact, John Wells and I went down to the hearing. The Lawyers Committee, Civil Rights back then, and I think it's called, presented their arguments to the Supreme Court.
Yeah.
And we won.
Great.
Like you said earlier, now it's 6-3, and all bets are off.
Okay. Yeah. Well. Mm-hmm. Yeah. No, you're right, and then we're paying a price for that, and not just here, but around the country. As people don't understand, I was saying, is that what happens in Georgia doesn't just affect Georgia; it affects us here as well. Even if you have a Democratic state here, but if folks have control over the Senate, have control over the Congress, that's going to have a snowball effect and a chilling effect, because your senators here will be null and void. There'll just be a no vote, but the outcome will be that folks will get what they want on the other side. And what I'm seeing, it is not a very favorable side for folks that look like us.
Absolutely not. Especially now you have Cinema deciding she wants to be an independent.
Right.
She's going to be going to the Republican more than the Democrat.
Well,
What
right. Well, that's the thing. Right. What she's basically saying is, I want to try to save my job, but she's not reading the tea leaves, because if you look at the Arizona, they voted to send Kelly back to the Senate, and they voted for a Democratic governor. So I'm not sure who was advising her that that's a good idea. You know, to do so.
Yeah, it's frightening. A matter of fact, earlier you were talking about the fascism and the racism and anti-Semitism.
Mm-hmm.
And it brought me back to a point I've been trying to make to a lot of people.
Yeah.
My father and many other black, Hispanic, Asian people fought during World War II against fascism and Nazism.
Yeah.
And they had to come back to America having to deal with Jim Crow.
Yeah. Yeah. And
So what I'm saying is we're starting to go right back to the same old.
Yeah, they got treated better in some of these other countries than they did, like I said, for a country that they fought for.
Right.
Mm-hmm.
And they did it well. My father was trapped.
Yeah.
They did it. Once they were there, they put their whole... My father served in North Africa, and we never talked about it.
Mm-hmm.
I have no idea what he went to.
Yeah.
I'm sure it was bad, because he had what I now know PTSD from the time of the
Yeah.
But he was willing to put his life on the line, but he was good.
Yeah. Yeah, just as we did. Hey, Larry, can you do me a favor? Because I really wanted to continue this conversation. My guests are in studio for this hour. Can you call back at that 9 o'clock hour so we can continue this dialogue? I'd love to explore this more with you.
Sure, absolutely, no problem at all.
All right, give me a call back at 9 o'clock and we'll finish this up.
Okay, sounds good.
All right,
Take care.
folks. Larry Brown, former president of Mamler, retired City of Boston police officer and a mentor. He's going to call back at 9 o'clock. We're going to pick up on where we left off there. So, with that said, as I turn, the studio has filled up this morning. Again, our folks are here from Guaranteed Rate and other organizations here. So, I am going to allow them to make the introductions themselves. We have some newcomers into the studio. I want to say welcome to the Roundtable with Manlio. So I'll start to my right with Sam. I know Sam. Wow, Sam's been here. He's a regular here at the Roundtable.
Yep, Sam Reimer. I own a real estate company, KR Boston. I'm also a real estate commercial agent. And thanks for having me.
Good morning, Sam. And then we have a newcomer.
Hello, welcome. Good morning. Thank you for having me. Excited to be here. Nellie Soto. I am here on behalf of the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. We're a national company in California. I am originally their founding president here in Boston, and we have 100 chapters throughout the country.
Okay, well, good morning and welcome. And I believe we have to my far right there, I know Cora is in studio. Cora Holbrook is with us. It's okay in studio, and then I'm just gonna
So Kareem is carrying my bag. That's my husband.
Okay, all right. So you have I feel that job, and so I understand how that works.
I'm like, I'll buy you breakfast. Just come with me. It's early on Saturday.
There we go. It's part of the honey-do list.
Thank you for that.
All right. Well, welcome along to At the Roundtable with Ma'am Leo. So, Nelly, I'm going to start with you because this is new. I've never knew there was a Hispanic Realtor Association.
Ma'am Leo.
Yes, Dr. Bradley, is that you?
Yes, it's me. I'm sorry. I was talking to my bride.
Okay. All right, stand by for 1 second. So, Nelly, tell us a little bit about where you're located and how this came about, and what is your mission in serving
So NARIP has been around now for 25 years, and it's interesting.
Wow.
Your comments of saying I didn't know NARIP existed, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate Professionals. Unlike NAR, which Sam's familiar with, and so am I. By the way, full disclosure, I'm also a real estate broker.
Okay.
But under the association, it's all practitioners in the real estate industry. So you're talking title service, insurance firms, real estate professionals, mortgage companies, lenders, and so forth. So we've been around for 25 years, and our mission is to advance sustainable Hispanic homeownership, and that's across the U.S. All right.
Yeah.
So we produce a report, which is the State of Hispanic Homeownership Report, which is what Cora wanted me to come in and talk about this morning and give you some stats about Massachusetts and the nation. But the report is produced to basically keep track of our numbers, but bring consciousness as where our home ownership rate is in the country. We also produce the Hispanic Wealth Project report, which is basically to shorten that wealth gap, which I'm sure you're familiar with. Hispanic families lag against non-Hispanic, and so do blacks and so forth. So.
Yeah.
We have been tracking the rate, Hispanic homeownership rate in the U.S. since 2000. And what we noticed is that in the Great Recession in 2000, and it started 2007, 8, 9, we were at the numbers that we are today, 48.4%. And so,
No, pull that closer to you.
okay, closer to me.
Yeah,
all right.
there we go.
All right. Tech.
That's much better.
Oh, thank you.
Yeah.
Yeah, that does sound better. Oh, thank you for that tip. So what happened is that a lot of our community lost 2/3 of Hispanic medium household wealth during that time. So we were losing properties left and right. And so in 2014 is when we started seeing that Hispanic buyers gain trust. The lending institutions became a little bit more flexible and started lending money again. It's when our rates started increasing again. So currently in 2021, and again, I'm going to reference our report, which is, we produce this every year. We have been for the past 12 years. We're currently at 48.4% again. So our goal is to get to 50% by 2024. Will that happen?
The percent of what?
Of Hispanic homeownership rate in the U.S. And then I'll go back to Mass in a little bit because I made my notes here. And again, bear with me as I follow. So the rate now at 48.4% in 2021, we've added 1.9 million total net households since the Great Recession. Okay. I want to point out that there was a sharp reversal, like I mentioned before, of the trends in household formation in 2017. And again, our goal is to get to 50% in 2024. And I personally don't foresee that happening due to the nuances that are happening in the market. And you as a real estate professional are very aware of the overbidding, the shortage of inventory, access to credit, and so forth.
Right.
And so because of that, the organization says we're probably not going to meet that 50% by 2024, mentioning those nuances that I just mentioned. Now, in our market predominantly, or let's keep it at the macro level. Nationally, our buyer, the Hispanic buyer, is more likely to go with an FHA loan.
And why is that?
Because of the lower down payment.
Huh.
And usually what we found out is that they're basically pitched that product. So told, oh, I have the perfect product for you to, purchase your first home. It's a minimal down payment. But as we know, FHA is more expensive. And then what happens here in Mass, and I'll go back to Mass, and this is my experience in SEM.
Can I interrupt you? You say FHA is, is more expensive compared to what other option would be available.
Correct.
And what's the difference so
I'm not a lending, so that would be Cora's, and I'll let her answer that.
Okay.
Let me, can you hear me?
Go ahead. We can hear you now.
Okay, so the reason why FHA is being promoted is because it has the lowest down payment, and and also the debt ratios. It can accommodate a higher debt ratio, and there are a lot of first-time home buyers who are who don't have a lot of down payment, and therefore if they borrow more, it means that they have to pay more, and therefore that pushes up the total debt ratio. But and FHA can go up to 57% debt ratio versus the 45% or 47% of a conventional loan and the state program. The state program limits the debt ratio to 45%. And for low income borrowers, they of course they have debt ratios include the debts and the mortgage payments. So with all those debt payments that they're making, you add the mortgage payment, they have more chances of getting approved with an FHA. But hopefully, we can turn that around and get something and get them to qualify for a better program.
Well, from my experience, so FHA has a higher expense because you have the mortgage insurance, right? You have to add that on to the end. But in a lot of these cases, the mortgage insurance is worth paying versus renting, because you still have access. You get access to that wealth ladder that you don't have access to. So if you were to compare two people that would, one person paid a little more because they have the mortgage insurance on there. Honestly, I think the interest rates sometimes are slightly a little lower, actually, or similar. It's comparable. It's better to be on that ladder.
So let me ask you, because you mentioned the insurance. If there's a certain percentage, right? So if I'm putting down more than 20% or more, am I required to have that private mortgage insurance? Is that what you're talking about?
Well, I'm speaking about if you get a FHA, FHA loan, and you put in 3.5% down, which is it's very affordable, especially if you're low income. To put 20% down, average home in some of these areas, Randolph, or you're talking $500,000 or $400,000. The down payment for something like that is going to cost you, with the FHA loan, can be like around $20,000 when everything's said and done. Which is $20,000 is doable compared to trying to put 20%, which is over $100,000.
Right. So just on that private mortgage insurance, the PMI they call it, refer to, that a lot of people aren't aware of is that they don't know, like when they get to a certain amount or equity in the property, that they can remove it. But a lot of people, if they don't know, they continue to pay it, and the banks or the mortgage companies don't tell them that.
Well, I think Corey can speak on that, but they're calling.
Not on an FHA loan. You don't remove it. If you stay on an FHA loan, the mortgage insurance premium doesn't get removed.
Oh, it does.
On a conventional loan, it gets removed. But the one thing peculiar about FHA is, no matter what your score is, your mortgage insurance remains the same. But on a conventional loan, if you have a good score, you get a very low mortgage insurance premium along with the down payment. Let's say if you are putting down a 5% on the purchase price, so you're left with 95%. So there is the insurance companies, the regular insurance companies on a conventional loan, including will gauge what coverage they should get, taking into consideration also the credit scores. And if the credit score is higher, like say over 720, and then they put down 5%, they're more likely to just pay 0.5%, 0.3 to 0.5% of mortgage insurance versus the 0.8 of FHA. And the other also, the one more thing about FHA is if your loan goes over 600,000, then you have to pay 1% mortgage insurance, and it doesn't go away. You have to pay it for as long as FHA holds your mortgage. So that's a big difference. But as to the point of Sam, FHA is still a good way of buying, because they allow higher debt ratio and low credit score up to 580, as low as 580 actually.
And low down payment. And if you
and 3.5. But conventional is only 3% down payment. Don't forget.
They have changed that. Yes.
On a multi, it's 5%.
Right.
But on a high balance mortgage, it's 5% as well.
617-282-0685, 617-282-0685. You're listening at the Roundtable with Ma'am Leo. In studio, we have Sam, who is here from
KR Boston.
And we have Nelly Sato, the Hispanic Realtors, and is here from
NAREP, the National Association of Hispanic Real Estate
and
Professionals.
Cora
And
Holbrook.
Century 21.
Cora Holbrook, who is here from
Guaranteed rate.
Guaranteed Rate, our sponsor here, is in studio. Dr. Bradley texted me. He's like, Cora's here, and I took the day off, and she usually brings good food. I'm enjoying it. So, with that being said, folks, if you have any questions, like I said, you have an all-star cast in studio this morning. And new to the table, like I said, I was not aware of the Hispanic, you hear folks talk about it, but actually knowing that there are organizations out there that is targeting and structuring to help us. So if you are listening, I know we have actually a multicultural listening audience. So, and a lot of times they're trying to navigate through that. And I always tell people, that's what I love about Cora. Is I know if I send someone to Cora, I know it's like sending them to a friend, someone who understands and is going to work with them and not just look at the formulas, right? And as you said earlier about the different plans, right? The FHA compared to a conventional, right? A lot of people don't know the differences. And if someone is in that position and they offer them, and then usually a lot of times banks and they'll offer you the most expensive package because that's where they're making their money, not what's most economical for you. But usually if you have them, like that's why we deal with Sam. We work with Sam on our conventional side because we know he's got to take care of his family, but he's not going to take care of it all out on us. He's going to spread it out a little bit, and I can live with that. So I want to thank you folks. And folks, take advantage of these folks. I know Sam, like I said, I want to touch you, and then I want to get back to Nelly. What's going on on the commercial? I know you deal with more of the commercial side of the real estate, right? And to Nelly's point as well, that's why I want to go to you. And are you seeing Hispanic folks approaching from the commercial side, or is that also a small number of people? So that's
the big thing. Is commercial is like kind of not in front of people as much. So whether the black and brown community, it's not really in front of them. I mean, it's kind of seen as like this, almost like the second level. Like get your first home, right, and then after you understand those basic investment stuff, then you go to the next level. But it's actually open for everyone.
But it almost really seems unattainable because to get into it is a lot different than getting a home. Right. The requirements are a lot different than getting.
They're different. I would say it's slightly easier if you know if you're working with the right people, because you can be more creative. Where there's a lot of rules and regulations around single family and residential property versus commercial, and that's what we're seeing right now in commercial is a lot more creative. A lot of things that were done back in the day with wrap mortgages and seller takebacks. So. Basically, the seller pretty much beating the bank in a lot of these cases. We're seeing more of that now. So transactions are still happening. Prices are adjusting, but you're able to be a lot more creative because of the regulations are a lot different with commercial versus residential.
Correct.
So
their rates are lower.
Yeah.
Let's point that out.
My co-host, Dr. Bradley, is on the line, so I want to make sure if he had any questions for you guys, he can get it out there. Other than, am I having his breakfast? The answer is yes. Dr. Bradley, good morning, sir.
Well, I'm sorry to hear that Cora is there, and I'm not. Because I do look forward to those nice Dunkin' Donuts that you bring. But I think I have two hits. My first hit is oftentimes we get caught up into the weeds when people are using acronyms, and as a novice or neophyte to the commercial up to the real estate business, I don't necessarily understand the different types of acronyms people are using. So I'm gonna ask that they explain what's FHA and all those other different acronyms. In addition to that, I wanted to know what is the impact that they're seeing on the commercial side of business, real estate business, due to remote working schedules and remote learning schedules.
Well, I think I'll let Sam take the commercial, and then his question, Cora, was on the commercial side. What are we seeing? Which is probably a question for Sam. And the acronym FHA. What does that mean? FHA.
Federal Housing Agency.
Okay, Federal Housing Agency. There we go.
It's a government-backed mortgage.
Yes.
Which
Okay.
is very important to like understand, because that had a big role in the redlining practices and everything, which caused a lot of the wealth gap that we currently have now. The government was very complicit in a lot of that, and so that's why they call for
A good book recommendation, The Color of Law,
The Color of Law. Okay.
if you want to catch up on how we are where we are today based on zoning.
Yeah. So,
Good.
Larry, the reason why
Okay.
both Nellie and Sam are here is because we wanted to see how the blacks versus the Latinos are faring. In this report that I just showed you, it says here the the Latinos have 7%, 7% of the total buyers around Boston or nationwide actually are. No, this is from Kurt actually.
Okay.
So 7% are Latinos and 6% are Black African Americans. And Larry, I have to correct you. Last time you said 8%, but it's actually lower. And it's really very surprising. Well, this market is really very challenging.
Well, the percentage I was quoting was, they said the net worth of Black Boston was around $8. Is what?
Oh, yeah, okay,
That's what.
sorry.
Not the percent. Yeah, the home
Sorry.
ownership.
But on the home buyers, they're
But
not.
you
they're
can't buy
not
much of a
lagging
home
behind.
with $8. You can't even buy the
True.
welcome mat on the front door. So let's, to that point, let's bring it home, Nellie and Sam. What is it looking like? I know you from Massachusetts in those two categories of Black and brown folks. How are they faring from your perspective and how you're seeing it, and how can we improve on that?
So in Massachusetts, we have 28.4%. So here in Mass of Hispanic home ownership, but our population's only 12.3% here. So 28.4% of that 12.3% own real estate in Mass. Those are the stats. And our unemployment rate is 4.3%. Hispanic unemployment rate,
Is what again?
4.3%.
That's not bad. I mean, considering
Yeah.
the national average is around under three,
Yep.
3.5 somewhere.
So, as far as the wealth gap, so we fare at about $39,000 in medium household wealth. Your typical non-Hispanic and family, about $189,000 in wealth. So you can see that it's about $150,000 disparity. Yeah, a gap there, and that's national. That's our national number. So I wanted to point out too, since we're talking about the real estate market and access to wealth, right, creation, that in the country, we looked at all the counties when this chaos was going on post-COVID and we were all crazy selling real estate. And Massachusetts has 2 counties that sold with the highest percentage over asking price, and that's Middlesex County. And I'll give you those numbers. We sold 67.3% of our listings over asking. And that county has 183,000 Hispanic community of 183,000. The second county, so that fared number 3 in the nation, okay? And then the second county fared number 9, which is, I believe, where we're sitting today. We're in
Suffolk?
Middlesex.
Oh, no,
we're
the
Suffolk,
Suffolk.
sorry.
Suffolk.
So Middlesex County fared number 9. And that was 63.2% of the properties in Middlesex County sold over asking price. And 143,000 Hispanic population
Okay,
alone.
so you said Middlesex twice. Is there?
So Essex is the first.
Essex, okay, so,
Sorry.
okay.
Fared number 3 of the top 10.
Okay.
And then Middlesex fared number 9.
So Essex, what the percentages there were?
67.3%.
Okay.
And the population, there's 183,000. I will send you a copy of the report.
Okay.
So that you have.
So in those 2 counties with the Hispanic population, those purchases, because that doesn't always equate to Hispanic buyers. what percentage of that were Hispanic?
This is
Oh,
only
this-
the Hispanic
oh,
demographic.
okay,
So
okay.
my report's strictly to Hispanics.
Oh, okay, wow.
So
okay.
nationally, I mean, compared to the total number of buyers, what does that translates to?
So Massachusetts, we rank number 2 in the nation for the lowest number of Hispanic home ownership.
Home ownership, okay.
New York is number 1. And if you were to ask me why, okay, so supply is low in Mass. It's very, entry level is very hard. Our prices are high. Our cost of living is high. Our debt to income ratios are higher here. Our migration of Hispanics here in Boston or the Commonwealth, we come from very meager countries that have a distorted, I call it distorted, but have a bad relationship with money. So our governments either took our money, didn't handle it correctly, banks went bankrupt, that kind of situation. So you see that migration that comes into the U.S., okay, doesn't have this trust in the finance world yet until they get on their feet, work. Most of that money's under the mattress. And I think Cora and Sam maybe have dealt with clients that, well, what do you mean the money's not in the bank account?
Right. Yeah.
So go ahead, Sam.
And you
Did you
said
want-
17% or 27 for Massachusetts.
So the data in Mass was that Hispanic buyers came in at 28.4%. These
Okay.
are numbers are of the 12.3% that are Hispanic.
And for the black community, it's 38%. So it's
Yeah, you
that
guys
shows
fare higher than us.
a little higher.
So,
right,
quick
than
question for you. So, in the Middlesex and Essex counties that you highlighted, that Hispanics did much better in those communities, right? What was it that was?
So it wasn't much better.
Oh, okay.
It was that those counties were so. The picture that we were trying to paint with that top 10 counties in the country that sold over asking is, look at how hard it is for our Hispanic buyers to get into home ownership. They're paying way over market
okay. That's the point.
allow them to even own property because low inventory, access to credit, all the nuances that we believe are hindering the Hispanic community, not only in this market, but across the U.S. And so those two counties, it was really shocking to see, well, we have the lowest Hispanic home ownership rate in the country here, yet we are still faring in the top 10 counties.
So I guess a quick question for you is that what were the communities? Were these communities that were not as well sought? Like, for instance, Suffolk County, Boston area, right?
They didn't rank, so there's
okay.
I don't have the data here, but they weren't in the top 10. We wanted to show the picture of the top 10 of who was paying the over asking.
Right. I guess
get
I'm trying to figure out what areas, like, was it Fall River, New Bedford? Was it areas that were not as sought after? Do we know where in Middlesex and Essex County Hispanics were buying? Like, in what neighborhoods?
So Essex County predominantly was the Merrimack Valley.
Okay. Got it.
And then Middlesex County locations like Lowell, there was, connecting towards Acton, Chelmsford,
In the Metro West.
Metro West.
So, and I guess in that, the reason, because it's those are probably not areas where there's a lot of employment, like Boston, where they would be able to make a little bit more money. These are areas probably was a lot harder for them to have, the economic means to be able to be homeowners, right? Where if they were closer to Boston, it would think that you would believe that they'd be able to maybe have better employment or opportunities to be able to buy that house. That's the reason why I was asking for location.
So it's good that you point that out, because the median income for a Hispanic family in Massachusetts or Hispanic person in Massachusetts is $51,000.
Wow, that's
So-
less than
So it
$1,000
took all
a
their
week.
savings in order for them to buy.
Correct. So the other thing I wanted to point out is that the median age or profile of a Hispanic buyer is about 29 years old. That's 14 years younger than your average buyer. So the Urban Institute quoted that between 2020 and 2040, 70% of your buyers will come from that Hispanic pool. So that was really interesting. Now, I can challenge that, saying that may not happen if we can't have access to credit, more income, and inventory.
Yeah.
And I think that I'd be remiss to leave this table without having a conversation about inventory. I think we should tap on that. And
Sure.
he's very vital to that conversation, Sam, because we have a lot of commercial property
Well, that's what I was going to ask.
that can be repurposed.
Ask Sam. Excuse me. In that regards, do you track the commercial by race at all, or is it just whoever comes in with the money?
I mean, it's not tracked because it's honestly it's really low. Let's just say that it's again, it's seen as almost out of sight, like for a lot of black and brown people, but it's there. It's an opportunity. I just think that, there's a lot of, just kind of like what you said about the distrust for the system. A lot of that plays into it, but it's there. It's definitely an opportunity. And I was just tracking. You said for Massachusetts it's 52,000 for income, 51. It's same thing. That's the same thing for Black people in Massachusetts as well.
So her question, she was asking you.
Oh, it's for inventory. Yeah. So inventory. I mean, so here's another real estate agent term, NIMBYism. So that's not in my backyard. So it's like one of the things that really plagues Massachusetts a lot is being able to build. Developers want to build.
I love that you just said that because I'm a YIMBY, which is yes in my backyard.
Good.
So that does exist out there.
Right.
So what it is if you look at California, and even in fashion, I say these to my kids, look at what's trending in California because it's going to come down here.
Yeah.
And so California just passed the SB 9 bill in 2021. And then they scaled it up, and I can send you guys that package of they approved their single family zoning that now you can have by right what they call an accessory dwelling unit. Right? So here I am as a homeowner. I want to sell my property or I just want to stay here, but now I need income because I'm in my retirement age. And so I decide that I'm going to take equity out of my house and I'm going to build an accessory dwelling unit called ADU by acronym. So now this ADU unit can provide income for me.
Right.
And it adds value to my property, right?
Right.
In addition, they added to that bill, and now you can produce up to 4 more units on that same parcel.
Right.
So that was approved in California. So I say, why can't we, Massachusetts? And what I started doing is calling municipality mayors and saying, hey, look at this. This was approved. Let's have a conversation. And I encourage Sam for you to also do that because that's when they can see like, and I've talked to many municipalities and they had no idea that this passed in California and they found it interesting. Now, development's tricky because it can be used to say, we want to have more housing. Let's say, for example, we're sitting in Dorchester. We want more housing in Dorchester. Absolutely. They can use it. It's a knife of what they call a
double-edged sword.
Double-edged sword, because that can be used to say, okay, we're going to develop, and this is what we're going to allow, and we need XYZ amount of affordable housing for this to happen. Okay, and so developers, for the most part, will jump into that conversation if it's financially feasible for them, not for the main reason that we need more stock.
Right. Well, it is a double-edged sword because the developers need the money, right? That we're not doing anything for free, and then it also applies to the financial stock. I think the big issue is when there's so much yellow tape and it takes so long that it makes it not profitable. That's the problem. If it's not profitable for the developer, they won't build it.
Yeah. Dr. Bradley, you have anything you wanted to?
Right.
No, I think she tapped into my. I think I sent a text on this.
Yeah.
My question about the availability of commercial property, because it seems to me that there's been a paradigm shift on how we report to work and the things that we're doing with commercial property, and perhaps that property could be rezoned to residential that would increase the inventory, thereby lowering the prices. That's why I asked that question.
Right. So my question to, I guess, is that, Boston just had took over, beating out San Francisco as the second most expensive city in the world to live in the country to live in. How does
They will.
You're right, probably right in that regard, right? I didn't misspeak.
Dubai has to be up there somewhere.
How do we help black and brown buyers in the commercial as well as just the home ownership when we know, like, competing, like I said, other than in Middlesex and Essex County? Because it seems like once we find an area that we can afford, we tell our friends and we kind of congregate to that area. But how do we get our foot in the door here?
Right. So what I would just so that's exactly what happened. The urban sprawl, and COVID accelerated that by a lot. So a lot of municipalities, a lot of smaller, these outside towns are doing is they're creating their own kind of center core. They've always been doing that, but they're making definitely higher investments on that, and so that's what's happening now. Even as developers are building out there, the new buildings coming, a lot of them have offices. The office space is built in, so that's happening. And as far as your second question was,
how do we get
more
right? Because the cost, I think the median price for a home in Boston is over $700,000.
Right,
and it's not much better. You've shown us some commercial properties, and my jaw drops because 10 years ago I could have bought the whole block for what you're asking for one building now, right? Right. It's very difficult. Like there's also like the study that came out several years ago that the net worth of, and it just said black Boston was $8 compared to $247,000 for white Boston. And recently, let's fast forward, I think it was almost 10 years since that study was done, that has only gotten worse. It hasn't increased. So if you've been a renter all that time and you haven't built up any equity, and that was when immediately I knew they weren't talking about these great jobs that white people might have had. It was the homes that they owned 30 years ago that now it's like hitting the lottery.
Right.
I guess my question to both of you is, how do we get the playing field even where I can compete? Like for me, I started early, so I can come and have a conversation with you about commercial because I built up equity. Right. I can come and have a conversation with you about home ownership because I built. But if I'm a first-time person trying to break into it today, how do we get them there?
So can I go back to the previous question about commercial property?
Okay. Can we take these calls?
Yeah.
Can you guys hang around after the top of the hour?
Sure.
Okay. All right, good. So, because I knew this was going to happen. Good morning, caller. Welcome to the Roundtable. Good morning, Jamal.
Please, good morning. How you doing?
Well, good morning. I figured this would interest you.
Oh, yeah. So, and in fact, too, because I'm in Georgia now, and when I drive around here, it's amazing the level of vacancies that are down here. Because unlike Boston, it seems like everything's getting swooped up. But here, it's like I'm seeing houses galore, commercial properties galore that are just abandoned and in need of some TLC. But what I want to ask for Boston, Massachusetts, and in general our areas. Back in the good old days, a lot of people were coming up off of the foreclosures and the tax lien properties as well. And also, I know that the city is now, selling off a lot of lots. Can you talk about maybe some of the opportunities that may or may not any longer exist with foreclosures, tax lien properties, and or some of the lots that the city is now trying to dispose of?
Great. That's a great question. Thank you for that, because it ties into what I wanted to reference to. And so when you look at tax lien property or tax title property, there's a legal process that has to happen for the city to be able to either take her back or the owner to claim it back, right? Which is called like relinquish it back to the previous owner. They have to basically pay the taxes that they owe, plus the interest. So I think if we can approach municipality, and this may work in Georgia too, where you say, listen, let me look at your property that's on tax title, right? You have, I don't know if you're a real estate practitioner or not, but you partner with a real estate practitioner and you say, find these people and let's have a conversation. Most of these people don't want to pay that bill. But if you approach them and say, I want to pay this bill for you, and maybe you can make a couple bucks, or maybe, it's just to pay off the debt for them. Now you can own this parcel, right? Now before you pay for it, obviously, you should go further and do some research as to what can I build there. And part of that conversation goes to how do I connect with municipality and look at their strategic plan and put something on there that may fit their strategic plan. And that may be housing, that may be a location for a new business, that may be, a community space, whatever that looks like. But now you can acquire this parcel, whether it's to hold or sell, right?
Yep.
To be able to bring in more inventory.
So just quickly, just say because with terminology here, and I want Sam weigh in on this, is that you said a real estate practitioner? Is that someone different than a real estate broker or agent?
It's the same.
Okay,
It's the
okay. I just
same.
wanted to make sure I wasn't looking for somebody different.
No.
Okay.
So a real estate broker, real estate agent,
Okay.
anybody that has a license
Gotcha.
to work in real
Okay,
estate.
just wanted to clear that up for us. Sam, did you want to weigh in on that
Thank you for
question?
that.
Yeah.
So the question about the tax liens and stuff, she hit everything on the head. That's one technique to acquire these properties, and to get into that game. So it's a really wide world to how you enter it. If you're interested, grab a mentor and start doing things. And
All right, Jamal, stand by. I want to grab this other caller, and then we'll get right back there. Caller, good morning. Welcome to the Roundtable. Dicko, you there? Dicko?
her turning signal.
Okay, yeah. I guess he's taking a left instead of a right. So, Jamal, stand by. So, Nelly,
That's my hazard light.
Oh, okay. Nelly, you wanted to say follow up with that?
So to follow up on Sam's comment, so there's also city-owned property that has no purpose right now in their books. So, for example, in our neck of the woods, you'll see like a lot of older schools that are no longer in use because to remodel them costs the city too much money.
Right.
And the school department was like, no. So you can approach the city and say, what property or land does the city own that the city may want to get rid of as well? And with that list, if any, or that conversation, you can potentially partner with a developer or someone like Sam that can bring in someone that wants to put in the money into that town. Or maybe it's the church or the group to build housing or to.
But I guess another catch up. How realistic is that? Because like I can't compete with Suffolk Construction, who already probably has the upper hand on the inside on that school building. Like for instance, West Roxbury High School.
I personally think it's very feasible.
Okay.
And I'll tell you why.
Okay.
I've done it myself.
Oh, okay.
So I approached the town. I did the whole tax title thing myself. In Lawrence, Massachusetts.
Right, but Lawrence is different than Boston.
Correct.
It's a whole different beast, right?
Correct. But I think that if you can have the conversations in municipality and bring forward a plan and pitch it, then and it's acceptable to them, then you can do your money raise. So then you can go to your banks and you can go to investors that can bring you cash.
Right. I agree. It's very doable.
Okay.
It just comes down to knowledge and spending time to either get the information yourself or getting a mentor that understands how to do it.
And the reason why I bring that up is because like we own the organization that I'm a part of, a former president at Manly. We have a large parcel with the double lot on it that been trying to develop to put housing on here in the city of Boston, and the process has just been exhausting, right? That's why I'm like, okay, and we own that property. So trying to acquire something from the city just seems like a Herculean task than to get it developed.
So it's interesting you say that because every municipality, or should I say it's not alarming, every municipality operates differently, right? And there's this thing that who's connected gets things done more than who's not connected.
Right.
But if you can definitely tap in for like MHC, Mass Housing Coalition, they're around for like building housing inventory. So an organization like that can use their network and their connections to say, hey, he's interested in developing his parcel. What can we do to help connect and mitigate and kind of call a win that we helped you kind of thing. So that can happen, but the research has to be done and you have to kind of connect your dots. And then the biggest part is the follow-up, right? You have to be on top of it.
All right. Is it?
Can I introduce?
Yeah, go ahead. Yep, go ahead, Jamal.
So, to your point, Larry, and to some of what the sister is saying as well,
Yep.
Different markets are different.
Exactly.
So in Boston, it could be possible, but it is going to be, first of all, the price is going to be higher.
Right.
And then, instead of, you might have 30 different people looking at the same thing in a competitive thing. And the properties that are available is smaller. As opposed to, let's say, if we all wanted to go out to Fall River and buy a building, they might pay us.
Right. That's true. That's true, right? And that's what I was saying. Is that's the difference? Is that there's probably not a lot of developers that see a bigger return in Fall River as they do here in the Boston market, and that's the difference from an investment standpoint.
Right. It's it is a lot of the municipality needs to want to get things done.
Yeah,
Right.
correct.
And that's the difference here in Boston. Sometimes they don't want to get things done.
All right, let's squeeze this call in before Jamal. Stand by. I want to squeeze this call in before we take a break.
gotta go.
Okay. All right.
All right, Jamal.
Later.
Okay. So, good morning, caller. Welcome to the roundtable.
Yes, good morning. This is Steve Michael Thomas. A quick question for your guest. The city of Boston, in order to obtain a city-owned property, it starts with Department of Neighborhood Development, D&D. They shape the RFP on what they want to see in that plot of land or building, so it doesn't matter what ideas you have to get that land or develop that land. The decision is made by someone not of the community. I know I went through the process. I got a plot of land to build a trade school on Quincy or Warren and Quincy, and now the city is still trying to take the land back and prevent me from creating a training entity that will benefit 100% of the community.
You're speaking to exactly what I was saying about our issue with Mamleo. We're trying to do something to improve the infrastructure in the community. We're putting our new headquarters and affordable housing for our senior population that we know are impacted.
Very needed.
Right, you would think, right? In the former administration, Walsh was very supportive, but the new administration is kind of like put the brakes on it and just putting all kinds of roadblocks in it.
So we should connect post this session, so
And-
I can have you talk to some of my peeps.
I was going to say, if you don't mind, before we take the break, we got a minute. Is you give out your contact information
Absolutely.
quickly, and we'll give it again at the top of the
Yeah,
hour, but just in case we lose
absolutely.
some folks in the
So if
transition.
you wanted, let me go back to the reports I referenced. I wish I could just be like, there's this QR code, you scan it, but go to our NAREP website, which is nahrep.org, and the acronym nahrep.org. And when you go there, go under Media Center, and it'll highlight the publications, whether you want the State of Hispanic Homeownership Report or the Hispanic Wealth Project, if you want data for the national or just, mass, it's all on there. So I wanted to point that out. So my name, Nellie Soto. My phone number is 978-423-9447. I am on social media, but I strictly use it for pleasure, not so much business, but you can definitely do business through there. So Social Extravaganza is my IG handle.
And that phone number again?
978-423-9447. And I'm here to help because what I want to do is bring in more housing inventory for home ownership.
All right, we've got to take our break, but they've agreed to stick around for a few more minutes at the top of the hour.
Larry, can I say this really quick?
Sure, quick.
Can you please give her my information? I'm driving, so
Okay.
I couldn't write her
All right,
information.
I'll send you hers.
Great
as
show,
well.
and I will be listening.
All right, thank you. All right, you've been listening at the Roundtable. Man, we're going to take a break, and our guests will be right back at the top of the hour.
Yep.
They don't want it. Eat any MC in the game. It ain't a challenge if your music reflects who you are, then you's a coward. I can see through the lies you ain't living what you spitting. If your money's so long, while your dog's in prison, while your baby mom's stripping, while your mom's still living in that same broken home that you used to sell piffin'.